All right, man. This is episode number 88 of the Cozy Corner of Cinema. This is being recorded on quite a chilly night on Monday, December 4th, 2023 at 10:33 p.m. We got a late one tonight. I wanted to get this episode recorded before I go off to bed because I tried to record this earlier, but some difficulties came in the way, and ultimately I had to scrap that. So here we are. If you're listening to this, then it has been successful. And I do apologize. I have a bit of a canker on my tongue. So if I pronounce words in a certain kind of questionable way, or you hear me kind of with a lisp or something like that, just know that it's that. It's canker sort of come and go here and there. But anyways, I hope you all have been doing well. We are officially into December, so now is the time to start thinking about the holiday season. Your acquaintances, your loved ones, your friends, your family, what gifts you're going to get them, what gifts you hope to receive. You know, it's just a fantastic sort of time of the year. I was lucky enough to get a gift from an acquaintance recently who mailed me a film. I don't think he listens to the show, so I won't go too in depth on there. But just in case, he sent me a film that he had been very high on, and I was just so thankful to receive said gift. And he will be receiving one as well soon before Christmas comes around. So whatever it is you celebrate, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Festivus, whatever it is, man, just such a joyous time of the year. The outside it gets cold, so we stay inside under the covers, drinking hot beverages. Perfect atmosphere to catch up on films, and perfect time to watch a lot of holiday films as well. It's sort of like there's plenty of just great Christmas films outside of the traditional ones. You have just really solid ones like The Silent Partner with Elliot Gould. And one of my favorite films it's actually not a Christmas film at all, but has Christmas in the title, that I always like to turn people on to is Preston Sturges's Christmas in July from 1940. Let me see what year that is. Actually, it is from 1940. That is a fantastic film. It's one of my favorite Preston Sturges films with Dick Powell and Ellen Drew. And it's a short film, too. It's only about 67 minutes. So if you're like, gosh, I need a film to watch, but I need a quality film to watch, but, I don't know what to do, then you can grab that. That has a Blu-ray from Kino, and I would definitely recommend that. It's a very, very enjoyable film, and just if you're a fan of Preston Sturges' other work, then I think you'll enjoy this one for sure. It's much in line with his other comedies. In that Preston Sturges book I read at the beginning of the year, which I don't remember the name of, I do apologize, his autobiography right before he passed away, which was published posthumously later, is such an enjoyable read about his career. And it's less about his films, more so about certain aspects of his films that he talks about. He doesn't talk about all of them. I don't believe he talks about like The Miracle of Morgan's Creek, which is one of his strongest films in my opinion. I remember recording that was a film that I owned for years and years and years and years and years. I mean, truly at least for a decade. And I have no idea what happened on that DVD. It got up, it grew legs, it walked right out of the house. But I recorded it off TCM. And I eventually watched it maybe 4 or 5 years ago or so, and gosh, just what a joyous film that is. It's just so funny, man. It's just a film that it's funny in a way where it's just so natural, where you don't, no matter how much time has passed, like 60, 70 years now, it's just still as funny as it was back then. It's truly just a testament of just quality filmmaking, quality writing, importantly the quality writing, and the way that the dialogue is received and put out. But anyways, just wanted to put that up there. I kind of went a little bit off on a tangent there, but I also want to mention, in case you weren't aware, a film that I talked about a little bit recently, Todd Haynes' new film, May December, is now on Netflix. I saw it pop up, and I went to go watch something on that. A film that I'm still kind of processing. I got mixed feelings on it overall, but I've been seeing some acquaintances giving it some pretty positive reactions, so that's been really fantastic. Todd Haynes is just such a wonderful filmmaker, and whether or not I like or dislike his films is beside the point. He's a filmmaker who, when I see he has a new film out, I'm gonna be on that like white on rice, man. Even though I haven't seen all of his films, so I do have to say his recent work, like Wonderstruck, Dark Waters, and his Velvet Underground documentary, I haven't seen, so I guess that's a bit contradictory, but you understand what I'm saying. But May December is a very interesting film nonetheless, and I would definitely recommend it should you be interested in that. But yeah, man, speaking of contemporary films, I wanted to talk about this film briefly so I could lead into talk about another film. With the year kind of winding down, you're going to see a lot of people talking about their favorite films of the year so far. And let me tell you guys, there's been no shortage of fantastic films this year. I mean, truly, there's just every year there's fantastic films. I'm looking back and I'm thinking of just wonderful, wonderful films this year. I'm thinking of films like Oppenheimer and A Fire, Past Lives, Showing Up, Blackberry. Just these really excellent films made by really excellent filmmakers, and you're going to see a lot of those pop up on a lot of lists. And there are still a handful of films that need to be seen before the end of the year. But this is a film that I truly had not even heard about until a couple days before I had seen it, and I watched it. Had the pleasure of seeing it theatrically, and for a film that I had really known nothing about, there were quite a bit of people in the auditorium, and this was just one of my favorite films I've seen this year. A truly wonderful documentary. And that film is King Cole from just this year, directed by Elaine McMillan Sheldon. And I won't go too much into this film because this is actually the reason why I bring this up is because I actually want to introduce another documentary, which was reminding me of that film. But I'm watching this film, and this is the best kind of film. I really knew nothing about it. I knew the title King Cole, and I didn't even fully know it was a documentary because I'm watching the film and I'm seeing this, young kid kind of walking around, going to the shop, buying this harmonica and all that. I mean, it starts off with the film starts off like a funeral procession, and I'm like, okay, what is going on with this film? And this is totally my kind of film, man. I won't go too much into it, but this is a documentary basically following this small town. I don't remember where it was, so I do apologize. But basically, the coal miners of this town are the backbone. They are seen in a heroic light where it's sort of like you're built into this sort of lifestyle where you become you talk about your father becoming a coal miner, you become a coal miner. The coal that basically built this town, built the economy on this town by exporting a lot of it. It's a film that it has narration, but the narration is poetic, where it's almost observations on something more existential than what's going on literally on the screen. And what I like about the film so much is that it's the kind of small town America that when I think of America, it's truly what I think of. The cities are fine and all that. The cities serve their purpose. I was actually just in New York fairly recently, and it's a very chaotic sort of go 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 sort of lifestyle, and people who are born into cities or who live in cities, and I'm sure they adjust to it, whereas if they go to the suburbs or a countryside, they're probably like, oh, it feels so slowed down. But to me, when I think of films, like when I think of just America as a place, I think of films like this, films like Hands on a Hard Body, and a film I'm going to talk about a little bit. Just these really, really special kind of small communities, man, that have built their kind of. I mean, like I'm watching this film, man, and they're showing like these sort of parades they have about the coal miners, and it's very very cozy. It's very I don't even want to say quaint because that almost sounds like a detriment. Like just some of the conversations in this are just so well done, man. It's just I mean I'm watching this and I'm thinking at times like, is this even a documentary? This feels more like a narrative kind of film at times where they're following certain characters. But I mean from what I can tell, this is just a full on documentary. And for a film that I knew nothing about, and a film that I haven't heard anyone talk about. This will be on my favorite films of the year list, undoubtedly. This is going to be for a certain type of audience member, an audience member who does not need spectacle, does not need conclusion. If you want to just look at the daily lives of a lot of these people who live in this town and the comings and goings of the people involved, much in the same way that I was talking about Cow, where you can draw a lot of your own personal conclusions that I don't think the filmmaker is trying to overtly put onto. I've even seen, even this year, I've seen a couple documentaries, and I don't want to I don't want to dog on any films. I mean, that's just a jerk thing to do. It takes a lot of effort and work to make a film, to finish a film. So, people enjoy stuff that I don't, then that's fantastic. But what I'm saying is that I've seen a couple of documentaries this year where they just try way too hard for the message to come through, where it interferes with the film itself, where it just becomes overbearing. And I've seen a couple of documentaries this year that have been like that, which when they're done, I'm just like, I just kind of think like, well, this is sort of a missed opportunity to have this message or have this idea that you really kind of fumbled. I mean, and the thing is that when I talk about like like films of the year and stuff, I don't like to do like worst stuff of the year. To me, that's just not nice. And I'm not saying gotta be nice, talk about these films, but even if it's a film that I'm like, man, that did everything wrong, I didn't like any of that. If somebody was like, hey, would you recommend this film? I go like, hey, man, if you want to see it, you go see it. I'm not gonna tell you to live your life. It's your life to live, man. I mean, we all are the writers and directors of our own lives. It's all about the experiences that we have to experience and the art that we take in. So I never want to steer anybody away from a film, even if it's a film that I strongly dislike. I don't hate any film. That's just a ridiculous thing to do. It's a film. You don't like it, you don't like it, move on, But I'm just saying that I've seen a couple of documentaries this year that I thought really fumbled the ball pretty badly. But then I look online, they have, good reviews, so I'm in the minority on that. And I don't, not that I'm looking at reviews on that, just more so when I, out of curiosity, just seeing how they're perceived. But anyways, what I wanted to talk about in terms of small town America is a film that was on Amazon Prime and might still be on Amazon Prime. I imagine that it still is, but has really become one of my favorite films that I've watched this year. When I first watched this film, I was like, that was a good film, man. That was a solid documentary. But the more that I've thought about it, the more I'm just like, this is really sticking with me, man. And it's a very low-key documentary from 2020, directed by Bradford Thomason and Brett Whitcomb. And I think they've actually done something else fairly recently, too. I don't want to speak for them. You know what? I think they... Oh, man, IMDb has these giant-ass ads, man, I tell you. It's, like, ridiculous. Okay, they didn't direct it, but they were involved with the... Oh, no, I'm sorry. One of them did direct it. Okay, this was actually before. I do apologize on that. So, because I wanted to mention that recently. I saw that the documentary on Glow, the story of the gorgeous ladies of wrestling, had recently, and I say recently, within the past couple months, had a new Blu-ray from OCN distribution. So I don't know which company put that out specifically. I haven't pulled that up yet, but they were involved in that. I thought they did something else, but maybe I'm incorrect. Their last one they did, Butterfly in the Sky, let's see, chronicles the journeys of broadcasters, educators, and filmmakers who believe television could inspire a lifelong love of reading, with LeVar Burton about reading Rainbow. Ooh, that will have to be watched. Definitely, that, ooh. Alright, that is very cool. Very cool stuff, man. Anyways, going off topic here. But the film in question is Jasper Mall. Now, malls in and of themselves are an essential part of America. We think of malls, we think of America, we think of just these giant sort of interior collections of people going to shops, socializing, eating food, spending money that they probably don't have, semi-joking, of course, but you understand what I mean. Now, let me tell you this, brother. You ain't going to catch me in a mall. I don't want to go to a mall. I have no interest in malls. And I say I have no interest in malls. I don't have no interest in going to malls. The actual aesthetic and architecture of them are something to be marveled at. These relics of times that have passed, whether malls have not been updated from the interiors or so on and so forth. They're fascinating relics, but let me tell you, brother, you are not going to find me at a mall ever, man. That is a complete waste of time. But I do want to watch documentaries about this sort of architecture that has passed with us. And Jasper Mall is just such a wonderful, wonderful documentary. We follow. Now I do want to apologize because I'm on IMDb now, and because there is no cast list, because this is in fact a documentary, but usually they have people involved in the documentary listed. So I do have to sincerely apologize up front. I do not know the gentleman's name who is the closest thing to a lead in the film. Let me get a sip of this beverage right here. Hold on, just might be a moment of silence for one moment. Just bear with me. But the gentleman who works maintenance at this mall, it's a dying mall. This was filmed before the pandemic, but released in 2020. You know, the pandemic and all that's not mentioned in the film, and obviously the pandemic tragically affected a lot of businesses, a lot of cinemas, a lot of restaurants. It's a very unfortunate circumstance. So it's interesting the timing of this documentary, but you know, we look at this dying mall. There's a lot of local mom and pop stores. The strategies of trying to keep stores there, they're losing. Like I think there was one. Now let me tell you this, guys, up front. It's been a couple months since I've seen this film, so if I get some details incorrect, I do apologize because I'm not going to pretend as if I have the perfect memory. I don't. You watch so many films. You're taking so much media. You're taking so much daily milieu nonsense. Did I forget to silence my phone again? Come on, man. I am so sorry, guys. That is such a flub on my part. This is how many weeks in a row? Oh my gosh. Anyways, what was I saying before? Yeah, so I do apologize if I get some certain details incorrect. But they're, the logistics of this mall, they're losing like a subway. They're losing some big kind of tentpole sort of places, and the difficulties that come with it. They talk about some of the mall walkers, the older guys and gals who walk the mall, the older gentlemen who play they play like dominoes or they play some sort of game there. It's a film that when I look at a documentary like this, I think documentaries that are just observational like this. And when I say observational, I don't mean strictly cinema verite. I don't mean strictly like Frederick Wiseman type documentaries. I'm talking about when you allow the subjects to kind of control the films themselves in a way that makes for such a more honest kind of portrayal of these certain aspects of not just American life. I'm talking about Jasper Mall, I'm talking about King Cole, which does have narration, but more so just telling this very interesting tale without having to have a traditional narrative. This gentleman who runs maintenance in the mall, who does everything. We see him opening up the mall, turning on the lights, doing the mopping, even quaint sequences like him interviewing a teenager who's going to work in the mall. They all add up to a character in the film of itself. A character in itself of the film. I do apologize if I get some of my wording correctly. I am recording this, in fact, almost at 11 at night, man. And then by the time we're listening to this, it will be the next day at the earliest, But it's the kind of film that it makes me feel incredibly cozy because there are problems in the film. There are problems they deal with, but when we're dealing with these certain unique characters that may not have ever gotten any sort of attention outside of a documentary like this, in terms of the public view, aside of their outside of the community, it is just so joyous to watch. And when I say joyous, I'm not reveling in the difficulties that they have. Obviously, that would be sadistic. However, by following them on this journey, you as a viewer are completely engaged with these real people whom previously you had no knowledge of. And I would recommend looking up actually what happened after the documentary, because that is as fascinating as the documentary itself. Because this only goes up to a certain point. It's sort of like whatever happens afterwards is what it is. But even in the middle of the film, we follow this couple, this teenage couple. They talk about, them going to a carnival and stuff. And let me tell you, with a film like this, I mean, from an editing standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, yeah, man, it's got, I don't even want to say issues, because that sounds like I'm being, like, negative, like a detriment on the film. Like, oh, it's got issues. Like, yeah, man, every film has issues. You kidding me? Come on, man. There's no film that doesn't have issues. Even my favorite films ever, it's just get out of here with that nonsense. But what I'm saying is that while you can write down technical flaws, you can write down narrative flaws, it's all about being in the mindset with these people and with the setting, so that when you're immediately done watching it, it may not hit you as impactfully as it does maybe down the line. And I think that's sort of the problem. That's why I don't, people are like, oh, this film is, good or, positive or negative reviews or anything like that. I don't, it's all relative. None of it matters, man. There are films that I see for the first time and then they don't really hit me or they don't emotionally affect me until far, far later. So this idea of just walking out of a film, man, and sort of this idea of just like, oh, what do you think of the film? This and that. I can give you like a general kind of shallow sort of response, but man, I mean, I tell you, it's like, I don't know, man. There are films that I see that I'm like, wow, I'm really high on that. Then I go and think about months later, and I'm like, not as much. That's why, actually, I stopped rating films. It's such a poor way of analyzing a film's quality, because there are films I'd rate highly that I could not tell you what happened, the specifics, months and months and months later. And there are films that I may feel lesser on that I'm thinking like, oh, I'm still thinking about, man. So the Jasper Mall is a wonderful, wonderful documentary. It's one of my favorite things I've watched this year. And the great thing about it is that it's pretty accessible to watch, I do have to say. It is, I believe, available still on Amazon Prime, which is how I watched it. But actually, I went to go look it up on YouTube as well, and it looks like it is free on there as well. People forget that YouTube has free movies as well. That's how I watched Goodbye Solo, which was such a brilliantly done film. But Jasper Mall, King Cole, fantastic contemporary documentaries, man. And what I was saying before is that, oh, so I got something in my throat. Hold on a second. Bear with me for just a moment. Do apologize on that front. That a film like this, or King Cole, I imagine, would pop up on something like Canopy. Canopy is just such a wonderful... Good God, what the hell did I eat earlier? Good God, man. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm not even listening to a radio station and have a guy coughing on air. Jeez Louise, man, that's very unprofessional. I do apologize for that, but... Yeah, these streaming services that have, like, Canopy and all that have just these fantastic documentaries or movie or anything. Just seek them out, man. They're going to enrich your life. What I always say, a good documentary can be better than a great film because it's the ones that really stick with you. And it's just, and I still feel like a lot of these contemporary documentaries that, if they're not being talked about in the public kind of conscious, then they sort of get lost in the shuffle. And, whether you like or dislike Michael Moore is completely your prerogative. It's in the eye of the beholder. But I think what Michael Moore has done so successfully in the past 20 years or so is bringing the documentary form to the mainstream, for better or for worse, in terms of the content of his films. Whether you love or you hate his films, whether they offend you, or whether they, and get you going or whatever, anything like that, they're still talked about. People are like, oh, I got to see this documentary. This is being talked about in a way that I feel like, and we still get that sometimes, man. I mean, I remember the Mr. Rogers documentary from a couple years ago. Won't You Be My Neighbor? It had some mainstream attention, but even still, it wasn't playing in the megaplex cinemas around, but it got some attention, sure. But I think about just really solid documentaries that I've seen recently. I mean, even recently, I watched the documentary Joan Baez, I Am a Noise. And coming from me, I know nothing about Joan Baez. I'm not a music guy. I mean, obviously, I love music. Who the hell doesn't? But I'm not. People can tell you everything about every band member that played on an album and this and that. And all that. I don't. Smarter men than I can tell you all about that. My point of the fact being, though, me who doesn't know anything about Joan Baez, I can still watch that documentary and get something really well out of it, where now I have a new perspective. I'm like, wow, I know who this person is, their struggles, their relationship with somebody like Bob Dylan. And when I say relationship, I don't strictly mean like a intimate relationship. I mean sort of like this sort of complicated friendship and all that. And that's why I'm always trying to push documentaries in the show to enrich your lives, to seek out documentaries that, whether or not you agree or disagree ideologically or politically or religiously, it's important to see these films, man. And let me tell you, man, and there's documentaries that I watch that I don't agree with the subject or anything like that, and even when it's over, I'm like, yeah, I still don't know, I still don't agree with where you're coming from or your point, but I don't regret watching them ever because now I have a refined perspective, and I just see people. I mean, not when I say I see people, it's more kind of like general thing. I'm not like I'm not. The only people who I see whose opinions I'm interested in are acquaintances, man. If an acquaintance of mine has an opinion about a film and whose opinion I trust, I'm far more interested in that than Joe Schmo, who's like, eating a popsicle, writing about, oh, this movie sucks, this movie's great, I'm just saying, generally, I get the idea that people are probably more hesitant to watch films, documentaries specifically, that they would disagree with instead of being challenged on their point of view, whether or not they actually are altered or not. So, with that said, King Cole, it's playing theatrically right now, but just keep an eye out for it when it'll be available at home. Jasper Mall is readily available on many, many streaming services, and Canopy has many, many great documentaries. I was just talking about Cow last week and how well done that film was, and I haven't looked at the documentary section on there lately, but I'm sure there are many, many great ones for sure. But this is the time, man. This is the time to go about and do what it is you have to be doing. I'm recording this right after I got some fantastic writing done. I got some watching done for tonight. I'm in the throes of a fantastic book that was gifted to me by an acquaintance. And these are the people whom you want to associate yourself with. Acquaintances who will enrich your life, who will push arts onto you, who will really make you a stronger person intellectually and spiritually and all that stuff, man. It's all about enhancing your life and involving yourself with people who are not going to be bogged down in the daily milieu and the daily kind of nonsense sort of conversation of just, oh, hey, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, I sat around and I did nothing. And, it's sort of like by involving yourself with people who are actually interested in this sort of criteria that you find yourself, or at least I find myself, sort of gained stronger as a person. There are acquaintances whom I enjoy talking to so much because they're smart, they're wise people who have a solid background of interest, and who I know that if they're like, hey man, hey Dan, you this has got to be on your radar, this book or this film, and I go, gosh, my life has been enriched by knowing you. It's just so fantastic, but ultimately you must be the forefront of your own, it must be at the forefront of your own life. You are the one-man crew of your life, and you have to do what it is that you have to do. And me, that is getting the work done. I have so much. I mean, when the day that I die, it's only thing that's guaranteed in this world. You're gonna die. I would say that people say, oh, you die and you pay taxes. So it's just like, well, I think Wesley Snipes went to jail because he didn't pay taxes, so even that ain't guaranteed. But when I die, there's going to be films I haven't seen, books I haven't read, or writings haven't been accomplished. So we have to do what we have to do in the time that we still have it, man. It's just a beautiful life to have, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful existence. But that's all. I'm gonna wrap that up right here. Thank you for listening yet again. God bless all of you. Enjoy the rest of your week. We're wrapping up the final month, so make sure you are getting done what it is you need to get done. Okay. Until next week, thank you for listening.